Gentlemen?
Good day, gentlemen. Spycicle and Durch here again, and today I've got some spy gameplay for you. After my previous video checking out the Spycicle, I was asked for a more in-depth look, as it seems that I didn't make the video's downsides quite well presented. In fact, I made it seem as if it didn't really have any downsides, which I think might sum it up quite a bit. Today I'm running on Frontier in a pub I've just joined through the quickplay function, and my loadout is the Enforcer, Spycicle and Dead Ringer, which, you know, hold on, I know what you're thinking, Enforcer, Dead Ringer and Spycicle. Well, my explanation for that is that if my Spycicle goes, I've got to rely on my gun, might as well be a good gun, and the Dead Ringer, well, I like the Dead Ringer, I use it all the time. But so today really, I mean, I aim to use the Spycicle, you know, make a show of that, but I do end up using my Enforcer quite a bit, which I think might speak a lot to the loadout overall. So, okay, well here we are on Frontier. Bit of a rocky start, but I was able to take out that sentry and stand off against that heavy, which speaks to the strength of the Enforcer and the Dead Ringer. So I think that as it stands, the Spycicle is probably leaning on the side of overpowered, a direct upgrade from the basic knife. Why is this? Well, I think, long story short, that its downsides are vastly overshadowed by its upsides. Downsides, well, what are they? Losing your knife for 15 seconds when you're hit by fire? Well, you'll still have your gun, and Spy's guns are pretty decent, in particular if you're running with the Enforcer, and Dead Ringer, of course. So even if you do lose your knife and you don't want to use your gun, go grab a health kit or an ammo kit. Retreat from the pyro who just made you lose the knife. By the time you reappear to take revenge, your knife's already back, and it's like it was never lost in the first place. Leaving ice sculptures, well, this has no effect when you're coming from behind people. Even if someone does see an ice sculpture, what does it even tell them? There might possibly be a spy somewhere in the area. There sure was, sometime in the last 30 seconds, even though he could be on the other side of the map right now. Ice sculptures are silent for one, so it enables chain stabs just fine. Even if someone sees an ice sculpture, you could be anywhere. When was the ice sculpture made? They don't know. They probably can't see you. I mean, and if you're running with the Dead Ringer instead of an actual invisibility watch, good players will always check their allies regardless if there's a spy anywhere on the map. They don't need an ice sculpture to tell them to do that. So then what upsides do we have? Well, I think the biggest one is a silent killer. This makes chain stabs possible on experienced players. If there's no noise to alert you that a spy is chain stabbing people in a conga line behind the cart, you probably won't know that they're there unless you're actively looking for them, and good spies will take advantage of you being distracted to look at, say, the demo man trying to hit you with pills from the front. That's when the spy comes in to stab the whole team. And if he's doing it in complete silence while the team is focused on a fight, he's going to have no trouble doing it with the silent killer, as opposed to your medic screaming in pain, which you will notice pretty quickly, because I think, you know, every heavy out there his ears are fine-tuned to the sound of a medic's death to signal impending doom or revenge, you know, hopefully. So, fire immunity, that's another one of the upsides, and probably the most noticeable one about it. So 2 seconds of fire immunity, that's a lot of time in an open area. It's a lot of movement that you can make. It's certainly plenty of time for the spy to see what direction that pyro is checking, because you're going to have a pyro after you, that's why you need to gotta get out of there. You're going to see what direction that pyro is looking for you. You can invis, yeah, you're close on fire, you whip out your knife, or perhaps you've already had your knife out and now you go invis. The pyro is, if you're in an open area, he's going to run off in one direction expecting you to go that way. 2 seconds gives you a decent amount of time to see that and just walk in the other direction, putting you safely out of his range, in particular with the Dead Ringer. Not to mention, if you're in a firefight with a pyro, you can just whip out the knife for a second, just draw it, just to lose it and gain the fire immunity to give you 2 seconds to, you know, pop this pyro full of bullets. And I mean, you'll get 3 bullets out of an Enforcer during those 2 seconds. That's plenty to kill a pyro. So not to mention the fact that if you stack the fire immunity with the dead ringer, as we're seeing here, you've got two forms of immunity. Now up until now, lighting a dead ringer with fire was the only reliable way, short of aimed, cooldown restricted, you know, the Mad Milk and the Girardi, two weapons from two classes that may or may not be present, and may or may not even have them equipped, and they may or may not even be ready to use. So short of that, fire was your go-to guy to keep track of your dead ringers and stop them just popping around the corner, picking up an ammo box and getting back to what they do. Now with the Spycicle, you can't even do that. If you get caught, pop your dead ringer, then while you're on fire and cloaked, whip out the knife, walk off in a random direction away from the pyro, and you're clean free. Come back in 15 seconds to silently chain stab people. So I think, you know, in general, the Spycicle is possibly adding to the common complaint of the never-ending, never-dying spy that people have had, well, since the Dead Ringer came out. I know that people, you know, love to complain, and people don't go to forums to tell everyone about how happy they are. But we saw at the beginning of this video me standing toe-to-toe with the heavy and taking him down to about 15% health with the Enforcer and Dead Ringer with no concern, completely safe, because of the Enforcer and Dead Ringer, no sweat. So now I don't even have to worry about pyros. By themselves, I'd say the Dead Ringer, the Spycicle and the Enforcer by themselves aren't too strong. But the loadout of Enforcer, Spycicle and Dead Ringer has all weapons complementing each other's drawbacks, resulting in a pretty good shift in power. The Enforcer, longer cloak activation time, no sweat, the Dead Ringer doesn't have one. Having trouble standing up toe-to-toe with heavier classes, Dead Ringer gives you a reliable way to ensure that you don't come out on the losing side. The Spycicle, your knife is gone, your gun does 20% more damage. Just back off while unkillable or undetectable if you don't want to fight. And the Dead Ringer, you can't invis, take any kind of damage and just walk through the entire team with your knife out. Not even fire or spam will show you, you can't be touched. So I mean, I certainly like the feeling of the Spycicle. And in a recent vid, it was mentioned, you know, why does it have the silent killer effect? The silent killer effect is what makes people go to the Eternal Reward. People don't go to the Eternal Reward for the chain disguise. Disguises are easily outdone. Good players will always spy check their teammates even if they're disguised. It's the silent killer effect that the Eternal Reward is fantastic for. And that's what the Saharan Spy set does for you too. Silence when you decloak. It's about the sound that enable chain stabs. So why does this knife, which the only real downside is possibly losing the ability to chain stab or stab at all for 15 seconds, it's a silent killer. Not only is it a silent killer, it gives you immunity to pyros. That's very good upsides. I think that probably the best way to balance this weapon, as I do think the Spycicle is leaning towards overpowered, is probably to remove the silent killer, or perhaps extend the loss of your knife. Maybe remove your gun too. You know, the question begs, why did they add the silent killer? Of course, you know, it makes logical sense. They're turning to ice. Oh, they're freezing. So they're not going to be able to scream. They will quietly turn to ice. It makes logical sense to our minds, but something that we've seen in Warcraft an awful lot is, for example, the removal of rogues needing to craft their poisons, people needing reagents for their spells. It makes, you know, logical sense in the fantasy setting. You've got to craft your poisons, but it's the gameplay that kind of stuff is removed. In that particular case, to remove the hassle. But in this particular case, even if it makes sense for the Spycicle to silently turn people to ice, perhaps gameplay balance wise, it's not quite needed and maybe you should go. But hey guys, I mean, there's a bit of footage, some good games with Frontier, a few messes up but a few good bits, and I had fun today, and well, we're going to have to see where the Spycicle goes from here. I'm going to have a video coming up soon of the Tickle Heavy Assassin trying to get people to laugh with the new Christmas mittens, so you know, stay tuned for that. And I've got the hat raffle in the new year, going to be giving out some hats to some lucky subscribers, so you know, hit the subscribe button, you might win a hat. Awesome. I've got a link in another video in my channel, you can check it out, see what hats are available, and you gents have an exquisite day, all the best, happy holidays, and See you soon. Thanks for watching, Gentlecast.